Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 966A, and today's date is May 9th, 2016, and the title of the episode is TTIP will be used to protect corporations and the banking system. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, out in Greece, we see the situation there. It is getting worse and worse by the day. Nothing has been improved. Actually, the entire country is putting themselves further and further into debt. Now, the two Greek political parties which were elected on this anti-austerity platform, well, it is not going well for the Greek people because the Greek parliament, they just voted for more austerity on the people in the form of tax and pension reforms. Now, we understand that these governments said, no, elect us, we won't be voting for austerity, we're going to support the people. And just like every single government, they always turn their back on the people. They always side with the central bankers. And right now, this is exactly what we're seeing. To get more debt, to put the country into more debt, they're going to hurt the people. And as we can see, going back in time, it does not work. And we see the people are very upset. In Athens, they were throwing petrol bombs at the police. They were protesting. The police used tear gas on them. And it seems like we're back to the same situation we were going back a couple of months, going back a couple of years. And it seems like this continually repeats. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same exact thing, expecting a different result. And guess what? You're not going to get a different result. It's always going to be the same. Now, here in the United States, we see now, coming from the Fed, that the labor market, it has contracted for the fourth month in a row. This is the longest streak since the financial crisis. Now, the U.S. government central bankers, they like to put out the propaganda that the labor market is absolutely fine. The unemployment continually drops. Initial jobless claims, look, they're at the lowest level since 1973. But we all realize and we understand at this point that all of this is manipulated and it's fake, phony, and false. Because we can see with our own two eyes, we can see and understand from all the economic indicators that none of this is true. We see manufacturing declining. We see retail contracting, housing bubble popping, GDP falling. The Baltic Dry Index is on its way down. It has fallen to 616 now, down another 15 points. So where is this all headed? We are headed into a major collapse scenario. And at this point, the United States government central bankers, they're going to have a very tough time in stopping it. And we all understand that they want to bring this economy down on their own. Now, of course, they can come out with QE4, which they're going to do. They're going to probably drop the interest rates to negative or zero or whatever they're going to try to do to prop the system up. But just like every single household, you can only do so much before something gives, before the countries around the world look at the situation and say, okay, enough is enough. Something is going on here. We already see Russia, China, and many other nations de-dollarizing at this point. We see a lot of countries now taking on the yuan, the ruble, and placing them in their reserves, removing the dollar. We see in the Middle East, the petrodollar is under a huge amount of threat of being discontinued out in the Middle East. Because what we're seeing is a lot of governments out there are falling and the people are rising up. And most likely, they're not going to be using the dollar to sell their natural resources. We also see out in Great Britain that they might leave the euro. And David Cameron is out there. He is pleading to the British people to stay within the euro system. Now, Obama went out there and he just made the situation completely worse. But David Cameron is out there and he's saying that if they leave, this could trigger World War III. And this is what our politicians do. They scare the people into doing things they normally wouldn't do. For instance, the TTIP. Now, we realize the TPP, the TTIP, it is not for the American people whatsoever. And we see protests all around the world against the TTIP. Now, of course, this was a big secret. They didn't want people reading it. And when you don't have something transparent, you know it is not a benefit to you. And what we're seeing from all this is that the U.S. is pushing these European nations to sign the TTIP for many different reasons. Now, one of the reasons they want them to sign, and this is coming from a leak from Italy, they're saying that they need to protect megabanks from prosecution. Now, they're forcing Europe, threatening them, and saying, listen, you need to do this. Now, we realize that the TPP, the TTIP, and everything that we discussed about it, it's not to benefit the people. It's to benefit the corporations. It's to benefit banks. It's not going to bring more jobs to America. Actually, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to bring third world workers to the United States. And under the TPP, those workers can work at the salary, the payment that they're making from their own country, which would make the U.S. worker a third world worker because they cannot compete with those jobs. They're going to have to bring their salaries down to that level. And this is what they've been preparing for. Now, out in Germany, they are having protests. They're saying we are completely against the TTIP. We're seeing this happen in Italy. Tens of thousands took to the streets in Rome against the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. They're saying, forget this. We don't want this. They're saying people before profits. And what we're seeing right now is the huge backlash against TTIP and TPP. And we're going to have to watch this very carefully because, again, as we know, government officials, banks, corporations, they're not looking at it in a way where it's best for the people. They're looking at this in a way where it's best for them. Just look at Obamacare. Just look at all the legislation that came out about spying, how they continually say, oh, it's for your benefit. Oh, it's the Patriot Act. It's the USA Freedom Act. It's the Affordable Care Act. It's the Transatlantic Partnership. All of this is for you. NAFTA, it's going to bring more jobs. But all of this that we've been seeing, and we've been reported on this quite a bit, all jobs have been lost. It is not a benefit. Now, today in the market, we see that it really hasn't gone anywhere. But something very interesting is that gold was slammed down once again. A huge suppression of gold prices today because, as we saw last week, gold was rising back up. They tried to suppress it, and it looks like they got all the paper contracts in order. They did a flash crash. Boom, brought it down. This is the time to buy. This is the time to purchase if you're looking to purchase at this point, which I think you should be. Because what's going to happen now is that gold is going to rise back up, and they're going to have to put together all these paper contracts once again to try to slam it down once again. And this is going to be a continuous trend. And as I've said in the past, this is a signal because as we see gold continually rise, and now we should get a larger increase in the gold price as we move forward, this is going to be a signal that we're getting closer and closer, and they're losing control of the entire system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.